There are times in our lives when we feel lost, when the weight of the world presses upon us so heavily that the very air feels too thick to breathe. But even in such moments, a message is waiting, hidden in plain sight. It is a message of hope, the whisper in the chaos, reminding us that there is more than what we can see with our eyes, hear with our ears, or touch with our hands. The angelic message you need is not one that shouts, but one that falls quietly and gently, like a whisper carried on the wind. There is a remarkable truth that we too often overlook, a truth that is simple yet profound. The divine is not always found in the extraordinary. We live in a world that celebrates the grand, the miraculous, and the sensational. But sometimes the most profound messages are tucked away in the ordinary moments of our lives. We tend to seek the spectacular, expecting a blazing light in the sky or a voice that shakes us to the core. Yet the angelic messages we need may very well be sitting quietly in the corner, waiting for us to notice. Consider for a moment the ordinary acts of kindness we often take for granted. The simple smile of a stranger as they pass by, the comfort of a loved one offering a reassuring word, or the quiet presence of someone who sits with us in our griefs. These are the moments where the divine speaks. They are not grand events, not earth-shattering epiphanies, but they are deeply significant. The quiet message embedded within these moments is one that whispers, "You are not alone, you are loved." We tend to dismiss the simple as insignificant because we have been taught to value the loud, the dramatic, the obvious. The world has conditioned us to expect the extraordinary, to crave excitement, and to demand proof of something greater than ourselves. But in doing so, we risk missing the quiet blessings that surround us. The angelic realm does not always speak in a way that commands attention. It often speaks through the still, small voice of the everyday. Think of the countless small things that pass by unnoticed. The rustle of leaves in the breeze, the warmth of sunlight streaming through the window, the sound of birdsong in the morning. These might seem trivial, almost inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, yet they are the very fabric of the world that holds us up. They are reminders that there is something more to life than our frantic searching, more to our existence than the noise we create. They remind us that we are part of something far bigger, far more intricate than we can even comprehend. It is in these small moments that we often find the most profound glimpses of grace. Grace does not always reveal itself in sudden flashes of insight or dramatic interventions. Instead, it often shows up in the small, subtle ways that we must learn to recognize. A gentle touch on the shoulder, a fleeting word of encouragement. When we are attuned to these moments, we begin to understand that the angelic messages we seek are often found not in the grand gestures, but in the delicate threads that weave through our lives. To recognize the divine in the ordinary is not always easy. We are so accustomed to looking for miracles that we forget that the miracles are already here. We pass by them without even realizing because we are so focused on the next big thing, the next great adventure, or the next dramatic shift in our lives. But what if we were to slow down and see the world for what it truly is? A place filled with subtle beauty, quiet miracles, and infinite possibilities. What if we learned to look for the sacred in the everyday? When we are able to look beyond the surface, we begin to notice how interconnected everything is. The thread of the divine runs through the smallest of details. The world is not something we exist alongside. It is something we are part of, something we move through, and in doing so, we are constantly being reminded of the sacredness of existence. The angelic message you need may not be wrapped in mystery or hidden behind a veil. It may be waiting for you in the simplest of things. Perhaps it is in the way the morning light breaks through the clouds, or in the stillness of a moment where you pause, take a breath, and realize that everything is just as it should be. Perhaps it is in the laughter shared with a friend, the warmth of a hug, or the quiet moments when you are at peace with yourself. These small, quiet gifts are the divine messages that we so often miss in our rush to chase the next big thing. By learning to pay attention to these small moments, we open ourselves to a deeper understanding of the world around us. We begin to see that life itself is sacred, that the ordinary is nothing less than extraordinary, and that the divine is always present, even in the most mundane of moments. The more we learn to see the world through this lens, the more we begin to recognize the angelic messages that have been with us all along. In our search for meaning, we sometimes believe that we must travel far and wide, seeking wisdom in far-off places or waiting for a great revelation to come. But perhaps the truth is simpler. Perhaps the wisdom we seek is already here, embedded in the moments we experience every day. The divine speaks not just in the grand gestures of life, but in the quiet stillness of the world around us. We only need to learn to listen. This is not to say that we should dismiss the great life-altering events that shape our lives. Those moments have their place, and they can certainly lead us to profound insights. But if we constantly focus on the extraordinary, we risk missing the richness of the ordinary, the beauty that lies in the everyday. The angelic messages you need may be calling out to you in the simplest of ways, waiting for you to slow down and hear them. In the course of our lives, there are moments when we feel as though we are standing on the edge of a vast abyss, looking out into the unknown. The path ahead seems unclear, and the weight of uncertainty presses heavily upon us. We are confronted with questions that feel too large, too overwhelming, and we begin to wonder if there is any hope at all. It is during these times of darkness that we must remember one of the most important truths. There is always a greater purpose at work. We are not alone, even in our most isolating struggles. This is one of the most profound messages that the divine seeks to communicate to us. In the midst of our confusion and pain, when everything feels fragmented and out of reach, there is a steady thread running through the fabric of our lives. A thread that connects us to something far larger than ourselves. It is in these moments of doubt and despair that we are invited to recognize the quiet truth that there is more at work in our lives than we can see or understand. Often in times of hardship, we feel as though we are wandering through a barren desert, longing for some sign that we are on the right path, desperate for any hint of direction. But the reality is that even when we cannot see the road ahead, even when the fog of uncertainty obscures our vision, there is still a purpose unfolding. The divine message we need is not always one of immediate clarity or resolution. Instead, it is a message of hope. Hope that despite the trials and tribulations we face, there is meaning behind it all. Every challenge, every obstacle has the potential to shape us, refine us, and guide us closer to our true purpose. The truth of hope is not one that denies the pain we experience, but rather acknowledges it in a way that offers strength. We are not promised a life free from suffering, but we are promised that suffering is not the end of the story. Even in our lowest points, we are being shaped for something greater. The struggles we endure, while they may seem senseless in the moment, are part of a larger design, a design that we may not fully understand yet, but that we can trust is leading us to a place of greater wisdom, greater strength, and ultimately, greater peace. Hope is the bridge that connects us to the divine plan, even when that plan is not immediately apparent. It is not a hope born out of wishful thinking or naive optimism, but a hope grounded in the understanding that there is something far beyond our immediate circumstances at work. This hope is what sustains us when everything else feels like it is falling apart. It is the assurance that no matter how dark the night may seem, the dawn will always come. In our most trying moments, the hope we need is often found in the small, quiet assurances that we are not forgotten. It may come in the form of a friend who reaches out to offer support, a moment of stillness where we are able to reflect on our growth, or even the gentle reminder that we are still breathing, still moving, still living, These small signs, though easy to overlook, are the ways in which the divine reminds us that we are never abandoned. The message of hope is not one of escape from suffering, but of transformation through it. The challenges we face are not arbitrary. They are the means by which we are refined, like gold in a furnace. Through the heat of life's difficulties, we are being shaped into something more than we were before, stronger, wiser, and more attuned to the world around. Even when we cannot see the end result, we must trust that there is a purpose behind the process, a purpose that is moving us towards something greater than we could ever have imagined. Hope, in this sense, is not just an emotional state, but a call to action. It is an invitation to keep moving forward, even when the way seems unclear. It is the courage to take one step at a time, even when the full picture has not yet come into focus. It is the quiet conviction that we are part of a much larger story, and that every twist and turn in our journey, no matter how difficult, is helping to write that story. And it is through this hope that we find the strength to endure, the grace to forgive, and the resilience to continue on, trusting that our journey, no matter how uncertain, is leading us exactly where we need to be. There is something remarkably transformative about grace, especially when we are faced with hardships and challenges. It is easy to assume that growth comes only through moments of ease or success, that it is the accomplishments and milestones of life that define who we become. Yet some of the most profound growth occurs not during times of triumph, but in the face of adversity. The truth is that grace often works its most powerful transformations through the very struggles we seek to avoid. It shapes us not by sparing us from difficulty, but by teaching us how to rise in the midst of it. Grace is not an external force that simply bestows good fortune upon us, but a subtle, almost imperceptible presence that invites us to become more than we were before. It is through grace that we are invited into a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. It does not promise a life free of hardship, nor does it offer us an escape from the pain that is often a part of the human experience. Rather, grace calls us to a different kind of existence, one that acknowledges the reality of suffering, yet believes in the possibility of transformation through it. In the face of suffering, we are often left questioning why we must endure such trials. We look for answers, for some reason or explanation, something that makes sense of the chaos. And yet, there are times when we are given no clear reason. The hardship simply exists, and we are left with a choice: to let it break us or to let it mold us. This is where grace comes in. Grace is the unseen hand that gently lifts us when we feel as though we are sinking. It is the quiet assurance that, even in our most painful moments, we are not abandoned. One of the most difficult things we face in times of struggle is the feeling that we are not growing, that we are merely surviving from one day to the next. We become consumed with the desire to make sense of our pain, to find meaning in our suffering. But growth is not always linear. It is not a process that can be measured by the milestones we achieve or the goals we reach. Often, growth is a slow, quiet transformation that takes place beneath the surface, in the deep recesses of the heart. It is in these moments of stillness, when we feel as though nothing is changing. Grace transforms us by teaching us to accept things as they are without demanding that they be different. It teaches us to surrender the need for control, to trust that there is a greater plan unfolding even when we cannot understand it. This is not a passive surrender, but an active choice to embrace the present moment, to accept the reality of our situation without resistance, and to allow the process of transformation to take place. In this way, grace teaches us the power of patience. The pain we endure, while it may seem meaningless in the moment, often becomes the very source of our strength. It is through suffering that we discover the depth of our resilience, the strength of our character, and the capacity for love and compassion that resides within us. We are often unaware of our own strength until it is called upon in times of crisis. Grace reveals to us our own capacity for endurance and growth, even when we believe ourselves to be at our lowest. It is important to note that grace does not simply remove the difficulties of life. Instead, it transforms us through them. The divine does not promise to take away our pain or our challenges, but rather to walk with us through them, guiding us, supporting us, and leading us to a deeper understanding of who we are meant to be. It is this partnership with grace that enables us to navigate the most difficult parts of our lives with strength, wisdom, and courage. Transformation through grace is often a gradual process. It is not a sudden, dramatic change, but a slow unfolding of the self. We have been shaped. The beauty of grace lies in its ability to transform us from the inside out. It does not ask us to become someone we are not, but rather to become more fully who we are. It calls us to shed the layers of fear, doubt, and insecurity that we have built up over the years, and to embrace our true selves with all of our imperfections. But it reminds us that we are worthy of love, that we are deserving of peace, and that we are capable of creating the life we seek, even in the midst of adversity. Grace also teaches us to be patient with others, as we have been taught to be patient with ourselves. When we understand the transformative power of grace in our own lives, we are better able to extend that grace to others. We become less quick to judge, more understanding of the struggles that others face, and more compassionate in our interactions with the world around us. Grace enables us to see beyond the surface, to recognize the divine spark in every person, and to honor the shared journey of growth and transformation that we are all on. Through grace, we learn that the challenges we face are not obstacles to our growth, but the very means by which we are transformed. They are the crucible in which we are refined, the trials that strip away the parts of ourselves that no longer serve us, and the very experiences that shape us into the people we are becoming. The beauty of this transformation is that it is not forced upon us. It is a gentle unfolding, a quiet process that takes place over time. And through it all, grace walks with us, offering us the strength, the patience, and the love we need to continue our journey. At the core of the angelic message lies a profound truth. Love is the essence of everything divine. It is the force that sustains us, that binds us together, and that invites us into a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. Love is not merely an emotion or a feeling. It is an active, transformative power. It is the very substance of the universe, the thread that weaves through all things, and it is through love that we are called to grow, to rise above our limitations, and to become who we are meant to be. We often think of love in terms of what we receive, the affection of a partner, the support of a friend, or the bond we share with family, but the true power of love goes far beyond these relationships. The love that the angels speak of is not conditional, nor is it bound by human limitations. It is a love that transcends boundaries, that seeks not to possess, but to give, to uplift, and to heal. It is a love that calls us to see beyond the surface. When we begin to see through the eyes of this love, we begin to understand that we are all connected. The divisions that we so often create, whether they are between ourselves and others or between different groups of people, are illusions. Love shows us that, at our core, we are all part of the same tapestry, woven together by the same divine thread. This love invites us to put aside our differences and see the humanity in one another, to recognize that each person, regardless of their background or circumstances, is deserving of respect, kindness. But love is not always easy. It requires courage, vulnerability, and the willingness to put aside our own egos and desires for the sake of something greater. Love does not ask us to condone harmful behavior or to turn a blind eye to injustice. But it calls us to respond with a heart full of compassion, a heart that seeks healing rather than retribution. When we act out of love, we are not only transforming others, we learn that when we act in love, we are not only helping others, but we are also helping ourselves. There is also a transformative power in the love that we extend to ourselves. Too often we are our own harshest critics, constantly focusing on our shortcomings and flaws. Yet, the divine love that the angels speak of calls us to look at ourselves with the same compassion, understanding, and acceptance that we would offer to a loved one. To love ourselves is not to indulge in selfishness or self-centeredness, but to recognize our own worth, to honor our needs, and to care for ourselves in a way that nurtures our body, mind, and spirit. When we learn to love ourselves, we are able to extend that same love to others. It is only by understanding our own value and the inherent goodness within us that we can truly see the goodness in others. Love does not demand perfection, nor does it expect us to have all the answers. It simply asks us to show up with open heart, ready to give and receive without condition. This is the love that is at the heart of every angelic message, a love that transcends time, space, and circumstance, a love that calls us to rise above our fears and limitations and to be agents of change in the world around us. It is a love that asks us to see beyond the surface, to look deeper, and to recognize the divine spark within all of creation. When we allow this love to flow through us, we begin to see the world in a new light. We see the potential for good in even the most challenging situations, and we understand that our ability to love, to show kindness, and to extend compassion is the most powerful force we possess. The call to love is not one that is easy, but it is one that is worth answering. It is through love that we are called to transcend our limitations, to forgive ourselves and others, and to create a world that reflects the divine harmony and peace that the angels speak of. It is a love that binds us all together, that invites us into a deeper connection with one another, and that transforms us from the inside out.